Hello everyone, I'm going to be doing a video on the second part of the second part of SCP-93 SCP-93. We are going to do this SCP just so we can get a good amount of finish on the entire story. And hello, if you didn't watch it, didn't watch the second part, watch the first part on their channel, or watch the first part of the second part. It's complicated, but you'll get it eventually on my YouTube channel. And blah 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 blah. So let's get to the video. Go! It will be on the live section, and it will be uploaded as a video or reaction. We'll be doing a reaction of watching it while we do meals. While I actively do dishes. There's major procrastination vibes. I'm running late. If you notice, if you were on the thing, but due to I am about getting to know. So I'll be communicating in some bit of commentary while everyone watches this video. So let's get to it. Okay, because you want. Okay, anyone watching this as a YouTube video, hello, hi, and let's get into this.
Sorry, that probably won't help you, because it was already. The message wasn't even intended for me. I think I just got a tip of the spaghetti. They're intended today, but now it is today. Why is it always happening today? Or is it always yesterday? Sorry, that probably won't help you, because it was already. The message wasn't even intended for me. I think I just got a tip of the spaghetti. There is one I got. A warning, missing from the rest of the dish. A single spaghetto all to myself. He is just toying with you. That's it. That's the whole message. That's it. Is it? No. The date, 2026-06-05. That's his breach, yes. Watch out. That's it. A date in the not far off future. Let's go ahead back to the only other time we've been concerned with a date, to enter the observational chamber for Walker and punch it in. Well, that gets us to a starkly different document, one that appears to be written by the Chaos Insurgency. The foreword reads, "We must never forget we are fighting a Titan. The Foundation has built itself up as an insurmountable monolith. It cannot show weakness. Any crack in its facade is an admission that its normalcy is not infallible, that all veils will die by 1,000 cuts. Today we made that crack. It cost us, but the Foundation will fear our raids for years to come. The next step is to deepen that crack, make it spread to anyone willing to look at the Foundation for what it is. Hereafter, Delta Commander Damian O'Connor will order in line with the steps of the plan as transcribed by the engineer of Delta Command and its cells. Step 1 states that he has put them together as the best raiders from Foundation Feast. This is no future raid, but it is just as important. They have been briefed about the facility and what they believe will soon transpire there. Mark the occasion, but do not mark the date. It is of paramount importance that they are there on the day of the containment breach. Take this as their only reference point on when they need to be where he has ordered them to. Step 2 states that when the containment breach is happening, It is of vital importance that they do not participate. This is not their breach. The Foundation expects a raid, and they are not one to play into the expectation of their enemy. He has given them so little information about the layout because this is all they will need. Getting to the service tunnel at the right moment will be enough of a task as is. They will find their access to their anomalous arsenal has increased. Take the Staff of Hermes, if they must. Step 3 states that there are 2 possibilities they will face after the breach has started slowing down. Be prepared for both. The first is easy. Nothing happened. The target was captured before he could get to them. Do not try to engage the task force to get the target out anyway. Just silently leave their post the way they entered. The Foundation must not suspect insurgency involvement in this scenario. The second case, the target finds them. Expect the target to flee into the tunnel on hot pursuit by the task force. Deal with them as you see fit. The Foundation is allowed to suspect an anomalous event, but revealed insurgency presence should still be kept to an absolute minimum. Extract the target. Step 4 is to drop the target at the designated drop-off point. Another convoy will bring the target to us for debriefing. We're then provided a conversation between O'Connor, the engineer, and Walker. The engineer greets Walker and says that he's a fan of his work, but Walker is confused as to where he is. O'Connor tells him that he's safe in Base B of the insurgency, but Walker is still a bit out of it. The engineer tells him that he is but a seed, cut off from his nest by time and space. Walker replies that he sees where this is going, and he says no. He really hates the Foundation right now, but he doesn't want to be here for a recruitment offer. The engineer tells him that they're well past that point. Subversion is the essence of insurgency, and the inverse of a prison is its break. He couldn't ask for a finer insurgent. This is more like a pep talk, as he's been doing very well so far, and he'd like him to not give up. He's found one way out, a tiny leak in the Foundation leading to the insurgency, but it's a leak they must close. There are several options available to him, as the full of the Gestalt would be a valuable asset in the fight against the Foundation. Their troops could use the morale boost of a tangible result from their raids. They would also accept intel as the only compensation for his rescue, everything he has on 053 and her project. Walker asks what project, and O'Connor says the one that got him his demotion. Walker can't really remember anything though, although he says he can see a path where he might have remembered. O'Connor calls it another dead end then, and the engineer says that Walker will arrive at his goal one way or another. Drop by drop, the dam must break, and O'Connor prepares his gun. So, the Chaos Insurgency was majorly involved in the breach here, which we already knew, but their goal was pretty specifically to get Walker out. As for what makes him special, we need to learn a little bit more about the project he worked on before becoming a D-Class, the Spiral Gestalt. Let's go back a bit again and check out the file on Walker, first at clearance level 3, then 1. Walker is the focal point of 9341's causal inconsistencies, and his main anomaly expresses itself in retroactive changes to the past during the containment breach, reflecting different actions taken during his escape attempt before reaching Gate A. In some revisions, he has reached Gate A with as yet undiscovered anomalies likely created through SCP-914. All other items encountered by Walker may end up displaced, destroyed, or confiscated upon reaching Gate A, depending on the revision. A revision may be accompanied by a minor time dilation effect, ensuring certain events happen at a specific point in time. As an example, MTF Epsilon 11 has always entered the facility at the moment Walker entered the entrance zone. despite Epsilon having consistently taken 10 minutes in every revision. In contrast, Walker took a variable amount of time. The shortest time he has taken from his position at the start of the containment breach to Gate A is 3 minutes and 24 seconds, using 106's pocket dimension as a shortcut. In another revision, he took multiple hours to reach Gate A and died of blood loss as soon as he was apprehended. He will, on occasion, vanish from his containment chamber for the duration of an entanglement breach. Only one round of testing and a preliminary interview with Walker was possible before the arrival of O5 personnel and the start of causal isolation. These interactions have been classified, and all involved Foundation personnel amnesticized by order of an O5 to ensure causal containment. Declassified conclusions taken from these interactions include Walker performing perfectly at tested tasks, Walker appearing delirious and remarking,
If you want to know, I'm trying to get a refreshing recapper. I'm not in a precious of mind. So I'm also trying to focus on washing dishes while also figuring out the entire mystery. Because it's kind of confusing. And at this point, I'm just willing to just wait until he tells the entire story and what the mystery is.
he felt like he had lost something. Walker, on a few occasions, speaking in plural, referring to himself or the site, and Walker being intimately familiar with all aspects of the site. The initial conclusion reached for his circumstances was that he was trapped in a time loop, always concluding with his capture at Gate A. The continuing past revisions were rationalized as attempts to leave the site without capture, inevitably proving futile. These conclusions have since been discarded, as not all revisions show a linear improvement of his capabilities as a time loop would imply. Multiple interviews corroborate the existence of revisions where he does not come close to reaching Gate A, as if he completely forgot preceding loops. The loop hypothesis is also unable to explain the changes in the site layout, the time dilation, or the split into two versions of the facility, depending through which gate it is entered. As a result of the causal isolation, it's unclear how he experiences these revisions, as well as any potential effects on his personality or emotional state. While led to believe that he had achieved D-Class status due to being a death row inmate, he belonged to the group of Class D personnel not authorized for 100% lethal operations, like an SCP-106 lure subject. Now let's look at the Clearance Level 1 version. The words amidst the redactions read, "Special is the contagion in this narrative. Cascading changes by blood vanish without capture. Enter the lure of the spiral gestalt." We're then given another link to the document discussing Project Spiral Gestalt. Despite being a Level 4 clearance file, it's heavily redacted. It seems to have involved the study of pattern-based extra-ontological entities, dating back to the investigation of the origin of the Fleshful Rain event. There's an inherent danger in observing these entities, and prior projects of a similar nature are therefore to be considered lost. The phenomenon, later dubbed the Spiral Gestalt, has a conceptual existence that requires a physical counterpart. We're provided a list of multiple incidents connected to the anomaly, although much of this is redacted. They seem to mention some protests, someone wrongfully imprisoned for more than 10 years, several instances during the Arab Spring, a series of anti-government protests and rebellions in the early 2010s, and several other protests around the world. Something increases the likelihood of it only being dependent on a single host at a time. Only one O5 was allowed to have full knowledge of the project, presumably O5-3, and a senior researcher, presumably Walker, noticed something during the research, exceeding the research he was allowed to do as a part of the project dealing with volatile information. He was not a host prior to his demotion, and the project has been deemed a failure. All right, so now we can tell that Project Spiral Gestalt came from studying pattern-based extra-ontological entities, or pattern screamers, entities that escaped the destruction of a prior.
Bah! Once you got all the pseudoscientific foundation words, and you said pattern screamers, this is why everything in the article is so fucked. They try to study pattern screamers. And we don't know pattern screamers are consciousness or something like that that don't exist. But do exist. In a way. They painfully exist in a state of non-reality. And they're extremely aggressive to all life. So it's far to any that the best way to deal with a pattern screamer is to ignore it and close everything. Erase all information of a pattern screamer.
Universe by embedding themselves into the fabric of reality. Pattern screamers are notoriously pretty dangerous to study, as they grow stronger through observation, so it's not too surprising that this document is so heavily redacted. Spiral Gestalt requires a physical host, and it seems to choose a host based around some criteria connected to protests and wrongful imprisonment. Walker was a senior researcher on the Spiral Gestalt team and noticed something about it, which caused him to research a bit too much. This resulted in his demotion to D class, which also triggered him becoming the host to the Spiral Gestalt. What the Gestalt actually does is a bit murkier, and it seems that the Foundation isn't quite clear on how it works either, other than it allows him to experience different revisions of time, similar to a time loop. Sometimes his knowledge is shared across revisions, allowing him to have perfect knowledge of the site and complete tasks perfectly, and other times he seems to have completely forgotten everything he had learned. I said in the first part that knowledge of the game Containment Breach doesn't seem to be necessary to understand this article, but that's not quite the case. I think it's important to understand that this article is based on a game, as it makes a lot of the pieces fit together. You see, the Spiral Gestalt is the in-game explanation for why the main character, Walker, is able to utilize saves and reload them. Anytime he would die, he can just reload his save and try again, doing so over and over until even the most bumbling fool can manage to escape alive. Beyond that, though, the idea of the whole thing being a game answers other questions. The site layout changes sometimes because the game's map is procedurally generated. There are multiple versions of the facility because of an update that added Gate B and multiple endings. Walker sometimes completely forgets how to escape because a new player has started the game and has never played before. We know from other articles that the Foundation's universe is pataphysically linked to our own, and it is subject to the whims of the authors. A game based in the Foundation's universe is no different, even though in this case, it's a lot more bewildering for them to understand. The Chaos Insurgency, however, whether they realize it's a game or not, recognizes the value of Walker's anomaly and his main character energy, so to speak. They engineered the Containment Breach to try to get him out and get some info about this anomaly, but so far it seems it's been fairly fruitless. There's still a couple of things we want to look into before ending, although I'm not going to look at every document in this mess. Let's read a bit about the Blaka-1 crisis mentioned a few times in relation to SCP-079. Using what I call a pro-gamer move, rather than navigating through the cluster of files to find the version we want, let's just change the URL from a 2 to a 4. The Foundation never thought of that one. Looking at the clearance level 4 version of the file then, we see that when SCP-079... Looking at the clearance level 4... The Foundation never thought of that one. Looking at the clearance level 4 version of the file then, we see that when SCP-079 took over most of the systems of Site-CB during the breach, it rewrote facility systems not essential to its primary focus into extensions of itself, then searched for any information about nearby civilization centers. It used information gained from email correspondence and video logs to find a target device which would be able to receive 079 over radio. The breach of 682 was very likely orchestrated as a distraction, while 079 transferred itself from Site-CB to the target device, which belonged to the sister of a Foundation stationed at the site. 079 had become familiar enough with the model to manipulate it per radio transmission into a copy of itself. From there, it spread to all devices in its vicinity. Counterintelligence reports suggest that the GOC became aware of 079 and the danger it posed halfway through the anomaly converting all electronic devices in the city. Given the immediate response, it can be assumed that the GOC used the Silicon Nornir, 3 sapient supercomputers, to predict the events. The Foundation only became aware of 079's escape through channels in the Coalition. Its escape from Site-CB had gone unnoticed due to the destruction of the site. The GOC contacted Pentagram, the occult branch of the U.S. Department of Defense, in order to fully lock down the internet in the region, the most likely escape vector of 79. The lockdown was further strengthened through a large-scale ritual by GOC member organization Electorate of Demomancers, causing, coincidentally, no internet traffic going out or into the region for the duration of the crisis. As soon as the lockdown was implemented, 79 sent conflicting messages about an evacuation to many devices, resulting in small groups of civilians being hoarded at different points across the city. Most of them were put in situations where malfunctions of nearby electronic devices could result in injury. A coalition strike team was transported to directly engage with a threat, now designated Blaka 1 by Pentagram and the GOC. 79 sent a list of demands in exchange for the hostages' release over coalition-restricted channels, but all the demands were rejected. While both groups restricted the options available to 79 through the internet lockdown and citywide jamming attempts, 79 was able to manipulate the state of nearby devices solely through atmospheric changes controlled through minute changes in the heating and fans of devices under its control. The calculations for this appear to have been extensive enough that it could do nothing else while taking over another device in this way. It's unknown how all the instances of 79 stayed in contact, but its actions cannot be explained otherwise. While Pentagram also deployed soldiers to the city, they went mostly ignored by 79, correctly identifying them as government agents. Its efforts were focused on the strike team, presumably believed to be Foundation agents. Both groups were able to evacuate high-profile targets and hostages in critical danger, before the Coalition activated an unidentified para-weapon sending repeated electromagnetic pulses across the city, save for designated exclusion zones. All instances of 79 in the city were terminated, and the incident was resolved. Foundation Regional Command opened an emergency excavation mission to get 79 out of the inner Gate B facility. It was then transported to a divination-blocking containment chamber. Channels of the Coalition revealed they had assumed some instances of the anomaly had escaped the city, but none could be detected. Research into this phenomenon resulted in the creation of the Warden-Walker Protocol, later successfully applied to SCP-035. At the conclusion of the crisis, a meeting was held between the GOC, Pentagram, and the Foundation. The two GOIs noted multiple incidents in the region, mentioning the creation of Nexus 35, the Blaka 1 crisis, as well as multiple smaller incidents associated with something unassigned. No information was revealed by the Foundation, but it is assumed both organizations suspect a major containment breach as the source of the incident. The existence of Site CB should be vehemently denied on the next U.S. Foundation Budget Allocation Conference. This crisis is believed to be the first incident of a rogue artificial intelligence involving multiple normalcy organizations. It has since been revealed that Pentagram allotted itself an extra budget to create an anti-AI focused division. This Warden Walker protocol has come up a couple of times now, so let's read a little bit more about that. The protocol makes use of two different components of SCP-9341's anomaly. The first is the effect of excavation, replacing the SCP as it exists in the outside world, with the anomaly recovered from the inner Gate B facility, at the moment the excavation concludes. This was first noted when 079 was excavated as a result of the Blaka 1 crisis, where it had been assumed that multiple instances of 79 still existed outside containment. After excavation, the excavated instance was the only one remaining. The first limited application of the protocol focused solely on the excavation of anomalies originally contained at Site CB that had breached containment. Notably, it had not applied to the original excavation of SCP-682, with something unassigned remaining undeterred. It's possible the protocol might prove ineffective if an anomaly has changed too much from its original state. The only other anomaly this applied to at the time was SCP-035, which had taken a town hostage, making regular containment difficult. The second component of the protocol is the anomalous transfer mechanism by which new anomalies are retroactively involved in the containment breach. This was at the time not understood to happen without prompting. The effect was hypothesized and confirmed by transferring several anomalous ducts. The protocol is currently inactive, denied on the authority of 053 due to the effects of new anomalies inserted into 9341 being deemed too unpredictable. Upon the realization that anomalies were being semi-regularly transferred to 9341 regardless, however, the activation of the Warden Walker protocol was again requested on the basis of regular excavations being a necessity anyway, with the small addition of anomalies inserted via the protocol not making a difference. The activation remains denied. So basically, 79 broke containment and got into a nearby city where it started copying itself onto every device it could. The GOC and the Pentagram came in and locked down the whole area, not allowing any internet traffic in or out. Even they were pretty sure 79 got out of that somehow, likely before they even showed up, which would likely have proven pretty disastrous for the Foundation. Thankfully, however, they discovered that by digging 79 out of the ruins of Gate B, that version of 79 became the only version in existence, wiping out all the others. They also discovered that this effect works for anything that was originally contained at Site CB. They decided against transferring anomalies retroactively to the site in order to exploit this effect. As mentioned previously, anomalies are somehow being transferred to the site retroactively anyways. That just leaves one last mystery, the nature of this unassigned thing that keeps popping up. We're heading back to Gate B for this one, and if we end up on the page discussing the radioactive fungus at the clearance level 1 version, the words read, anomalous form of metabolism. It will grow together again and continually renew. Given other aspects is that young fungus behavior. From here, we're linked to the level 4 file for the unassigned anomaly, which is given Keter class. It is a radioactive tumor, subject both to rapid decay and fast regeneration, capable of facilitating movement by growing in a specific direction while its cells are rotting behind it. Using this method, it is constantly in motion. Its body mass stays the same throughout the motion unless it decides to grow in 2 different directions at once, in which case its body mass is split in half. The inside of the tumor is infected with a radiotropic fungus, which uses radioactive energy to sustain itself and the tumor. The decaying cells of the tumor, in turn, have managed to rot away into nothing but radioactive energy. Limited control over this process, as it has been observed not to absorb 100% of its created radioactive energy or to leave cells not fully decayed behind. The latter has occurred more often during feeding. The tumor has been observed to feed on any liquid provided to it, but has shown a preference for bodily fluids, reached by growing into a person or animal. The tumor will continue to feed until it has reached thrice its original body mass, at which point it will split into two other sources of liquid, regardless of whether the original source has been used up or not. We're then informed that the tumor accounts for 50% of the body mass of SCP-682 after it was hit by the alpha warheads of Site-CB. Following the explosion, it underwent rapid regeneration, culminating in a radiotropic fungus infecting the remains of Site-CB, and the tumor using said fungus for its bodily function. In all termination attempts on 682 so far, it has shown a strong preference for regenerating into a singular instance. In the rare case where multiple instances regenerated, one was eaten by the larger one, ultimately always culminating in a single 682. It is unknown why this new form has abandoned the notion of a single body. The tumor was likewise completely unaffected by the recovery of 682 using the excavation method. Following the breach, it spread out from Site-CB in all directions. Contact was made with 3 points of residence before recontainment teams could catch up to the anomaly. No evacuation was possible, as no believable cover story could be developed in the brief time, not in breach of the Veil Protocol. Large portions of the tumor had not spread further yet and could be recontained when recontainment teams caught up. Isolated survivors were recovered and amnesticized at all points of residence. Death rates were high due to the tumor's feeding behavior. Estimating based on this last increase in body mass, 20% of the tumor remains currently uncontained.
20%?
So, the security chief in the Gate B timeline decided to go against O5's orders and nuke the site in order to contain SCP-682, a thing that they really didn't want to do for some odd reason. As it turns out, nuking 682 only tickled it, and really made it a lot worse. Now, half of 682 is just one big tumor, connected to a vast growing network of radioactive fungus that grows into living creatures to absorb their fluids. Not only do they not have all the fungus contained, they don't even know where 20% of the tumor is located. This is really a concern, because prior to this, 682 has never wanted to split itself into multiple bodies before, but now it seems to have completely reversed that, and wants to spread as far and wide as possible. Remember that gray goo scenario the O5s were worried about? Alright, so...
They want the 682 to spread in a tumor-infested way all over the Earth.
This is a lot to take in, and certainly there's no clear narrative thread here to roll out. SCP-9341 is an attempt to write the events of the game Containment Breach as it occurred from the Foundation's perspective, as well as the aftermath, or I should say, aftermaths. We're notably never given any real info from Walker's perspective, as far as I could tell, as that's what playing the game itself will provide, and his perspective varies wildly. From the Foundation's perspective, then, they have a man who can seemingly bounce through time to an infinite degree, but he's perpetually entangled with this specific site. Nothing is said about any version of Walker that escapes and lives free on some beach somewhere, or really anything about any future involvement with the Chaos Insurgency. Walker is entangled with Site-CB because that's where the game takes place. They have a site now that exists in multiple different versions because of Walker's time shenanigans. They have anomalies randomly showing up at the site despite no one sending them there, because the game dev added new anomalies to the game. And they have a nuclear
because of the I've got the narrative connection between the two realities. And
Infested version of
what happens
SCP-682
yeah.
that's spreading his fungi as much as he can. This is an extremely interesting article, and perhaps the best approach to tackling the concept of writing the events of the game from the Foundation's perspective. There are pages in this article that I didn't mention in this video, and I guarantee that there are pages I didn't even notice, but as always, I recommend you check out the article yourself to piece the rest together. It's certainly a complicated piece, where nothing is really spelled out clearly for us, but I suppose that's how the Foundation feels too.
I can basically imagine the Foundation being like this. You know that Higuruma meme? You basically know what that basically does the Foundation. Cooked.